Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw, editorial director at TigerFitness.com and Muscle and Brawn Nutrition CEO. Guys, this is a little bit off topic. It's a subject that I don't really talk about a lot on my channel. I don't really talk about personal life or things that have occurred in my life, but I want to tell you a story about my youth. I want to tell you a story about my alcoholic father. And the reason why I feel encouraged to tell this story is because some of you younger guys have had things happen to you in your youth or in your past, and you might be having a hard time moving on from them. I want to share this story and hopefully motivate some of you guys to forgive people that have hurt you in the past, to move on, maybe to take control over your life. So when I was young, I had a very alcoholic father. He was a violent father. He didn't hit me. He wasn't physically abusive to me, but he would go get drunk and he would come home and he would destroy things in the house, turn over tables, punch holes in the walls, do a lot of crazy things. My father served 2 tours in Vietnam, and when he came back, his alcoholism was out of control, and we took a lot of abuse mentally as kids. When I was 8 years old, my father moved out of the house. He moved about a block away down the road. It wasn't that far. He moved in with a woman who would tolerate him. And his alcoholism was still out of control. He, one night out of the blue, he called the house. And I had 2 younger sisters. It was a Saturday night. Me and my 2 younger sisters were at the house. My mother and my aunt, who was a little bit older. And my father was drunk out of his mind. And he called the house. And remember, he only lived about a block and a half away. And he told us that he was going to come to the house and he was going to kill us all. So for about the next 5 minutes, you could hear him slowly approaching our house. The shotgun shells were going off. He was firing the gun into the air. You could hear the shells go off maybe every half a minute or every 20 seconds or whatever, but you could hear him approaching because of the shotgun blast. Now, as kids, I was 8 years old. I was the oldest. My sisters were a lot younger. We all ran upstairs and hid. We didn't know what to do. We were terrified. We were kids. We didn't know what the heck to do in a situation like this. He entered the house and he came upstairs and he grabbed me and he pulled me downstairs. And it wasn't difficult for an 8-year-old kid to tell that he was completely blitzed as normal, like he normally was. So he pulled me downstairs, just me and him. And upstairs, my mother must have been calling the police. Or the police just showed up because of the shotgun blast that people had called in. And he sat on the couch and he was yelling at me and screaming at me to kill him. He gave me the shotgun. And I sat about 10 feet away from him as an 8-year-old boy. And he told me to point the shotgun at him and to kill him. So I held the shotgun at my father. And of course, I was a kid. I didn't know how to pull the trigger. And he was drunk out of his mind. He probably wasn't thinking clearly and didn't have a clue. Didn't know how to pull the trigger. But he was begging me, his 8-year-old son, to blow his head off. Now, the cops came after about 2 minutes of him screaming for me to kill him. The cops came. My dad was a big man. He's 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", and he was a very powerful man. The cops came. This was back around 1975, 1976. He opened the door, ran off the porch, jumped into the fray of the cops. I still remember it clearly. There was about 6, 7 officers. And just started, throwing fists and throwing down. Again, he was a big man. They restrained him and took him off. But this is a story that has stayed with me my entire life. It is a story that until I was about 30, 35 years old, somewhere in that range, I don't really remember, probably when I started having my own kids, that I couldn't let go of. I had always held a grudge against my father. I'd always been angry with him. I was always very confused. I could never move on. I lived in a state of poor me, you know, thinking I was unique, thinking I was someone special, that I was the only one in the world that had gone through something like this. I was the only one in the world that ever had gone through trauma. And I lived in a state of pity, like, you know, someday someone will see the terrible trauma I went through and just feel sorry for me and take care of me and show me the proper amount of pity and whatever, make it right. I don't know what I was thinking. I was young and immature, but the point I'm trying to make in telling this story and making this video is that I couldn't move on. I was chained to this event. I was chained to my past. I wasn't being successful. I was too busy in life worrying about poor me, worrying about all the crap that had happened in my life, to move forward, to forgive, and to just take control of my life and find a way to actually start living for me instead of living in the past and living with all the crap that had happened to me. So about the time when I had my own children, I learned the importance of forgiving. Now, I don't excuse what he did. He's never come to me and said he's sorry. He's never said, hey, I realize how much I may have screwed up your life. I've never gotten that closure, never gotten that satisfaction, but I have learned to move on. I have learned to set the past aside, and I realized at some point that these events, this past, was chaining me down. I was putting a stake into the ground, and I was chaining myself to it, saying, this is my life. This is my life. Will somebody free me from this stake? Will somebody free me from these chains? What I finally realized was that this man, this event, this past was holding me back. I was in bondage to this past. I was in bondage to events like this. And it wasn't until I took control mentally and said, I'm not going to let this control me anymore. I am not that person. I do not want those events to control my future life, to control what I can achieve in life. It wasn't until I made that decision to move on, to forget, to forgive, it wasn't until I made that decision to forget and forgive that I was able to start being successful on a personal level. It was around that time when I learned to forgive, when I learned just to move on. I learned to say, okay, he was young, he made mistakes. It's time for me to move on and be successful in life and get out of this poor me mindset. It wasn't until I made that decision that I started moving forward in life, that I started reaching personal success. And not too long after I started writing, I took initiative with my own income. And here I am today, editorial director at TigerFitness.com. I am completely successful. I'm one of the top writers in the industry. I've achieved more than I ever thought I would in life. And that past, that had chained me down for a very long time, that had kept me in this realm of self-pity, that had kept me in this realm of poor me, the world owes me, it wasn't until I freed myself from that and just moved on that I was able to be successful. I want to encourage you guys that if you are stuck in a rut right now, if someone has hurt you, whether it's a relationship or your father or whatever it is, and it continues to wear on you, you continue to carry it around like a big burden, I just want to encourage you guys to learn to let that go, to let it go, to forgive it, to forgive. That doesn't mean you have to excuse what this person does. That doesn't mean you have to say it's okay. You have to set that crap aside. It's time to move on. I want to encourage you guys to move on, to take control, to start being the best you can be. Because when you let the past actions of somebody continue to control you, you're not living in freedom. If somebody hurts you, if somebody abuses you, whether it's a relationship or your father, if you continue to let those actions control you, then you're still letting this person control you. Do you want to be controlled by this person for the rest of your life? It was bad enough that they impacted you at that moment in time. It was bad enough that they hurt you. Now you are letting them control you day in and day out. They are bringing you down. They are preventing you from being successful. It's time to move on. It's time to set that aside, and it's time to start living for yourself. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, you can check out my information below. If you've made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.